All right, so we're here today with my friend Kraig Adams. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Golden Hour podcast.
Thank you for having me. That's the thing that you say after the intro, right? That's like the standard cookie. Like, thank you for having me.
Yes, we were just talking about this prior to when I had this like really scripted intro, how podcasts really just kind of start. And I guess that's, for me, the way to actually begin it. But our friendship, if you want to even call it that, our acquaintanceship, and hopefully will turn into friendship, was meeting on a boat going from Catalina to back to Long Beach area when we did a product release party thing for the A6400. That was a fun project.
Yeah, Sony's been a great company because they just invite a bunch of us out there and just spoil us. That's what that trip was. Like, just food, interactions with other creators, just an awesome experience for us to just play with their new camera and then hang out with each other. So I miss it. I think they canceled the last one, right?
Yeah, there was the camera camp with Justine last year, and they obviously didn't do anything this year. Feels like an eternity ago since when I saw you last. One thing that stood out to me about you was you were wearing shorts, and it was really cold that night on the boat going back. And maybe it's just my California like way of life. When things are like below 50 degrees, it's like freezing. So I remember I was like, oh, Kraig is like hardcore. He's a New Yorker over there wearing shorts, you know?
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing. You'll always see some dude wearing shorts in the winter in New York City. It's like, how long can they wear shorts until they can't? It's almost, it's a challenge in a way. And I guess I fall into that category. I am that dude.
Well, I discovered your content years ago when you were doing more of the kind of gear review type of content. You were obviously into the Sony ecosystem, and I remember looking into some of the Zeiss lenses that were made for Sony mount, and at the time they were these really weird, I don't remember, was it the Batis or was it something else? I don't remember, but
yeah, Batis, Batiste.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. You did some reviews on these lenses, and you were one of the few people that I watched at all that did any reviews on these. And that's how I discovered your content. And then I started to kind of follow your journey into minimalism, and I know that that's been something of a passion of yours for years, but you started sharing about that on your channel, and it just was so interesting. And obviously Matt Diavella and all that kind of stuff was happening around the same time as well, so just the interest of that was growing overall from a social standpoint. And now here we are, you're doing these incredible travel films in this minimalist package, which you mentioned to you is like not interesting because it's just how you are, but to other people it comes across in this beautiful, package. I don't really know what to say, but like, it's been a cool journey to watch your transition and to discover you years ago with the gear stuff, and now here you are doing stuff that I feel like you're probably more passionate about than ever.
Yeah, things have changed since then. To narrow in on the gear, I don't really review gear anymore in the traditional sense, and I definitely wouldn't call myself a tech YouTuber when I might have done that a couple of years ago. The way that I review gear is just by using it and then sharing the things that I create with it. So some reviews will show, if you get a new camera, like some sample footage, but then also talk about the specs, pros and cons, reasons why you might want to buy it, etc. I just skip all of that fat because it's never useful for me when I'm trying to figure out if I want something. I just like to see what's the best thing someone can create with that tool, and that is how I decide whether I buy it or not.
Yeah. And I remember your S1H film came out right when that camera was announced. Did you get that kind of early before the release, and Panasonic worked with you on that film?
Yeah, anytime I'm narrowing in on a camera, it's usually because I'm motivated and hired by a company like Panasonic to test out their Lumix products. I'm actually doing the same thing right now with the S5. It's pretty much a mirror copy of that campaign, but with 2 different YouTube videos. And the work suffers. I don't know. You can have a good camera, but if you're not used to it, it's just not going to be as good. Like, I'm recording this on an A6600 right now, but if I took that out on a hike, I think that footage would blow the S5 out of the water, even though it's a big difference in features and specifications, I guess. So it's a balance of how much money I can make and let my product suffer. So it's a balance between those two, and I'm kind of burnt out on sponsorship and letting companies influence what I'm creating and how I create it. Life goes in waves, and right now I'm definitely at the point where I want to gain some control back over what I
Hmm.
create.
Didn't you also have a wedding film business or something like that?
I don't want to talk about that. Yes, I did. So that was definitely my start, my forte,
Foray. Yeah.
foray. Yes, okay, into YouTube, and realizing that social media can be a business if you treat it nicely. And since then, that wedding film school YouTube channel that taught people how to shoot weddings, I've sold to a Australian filmmaker
Hmm.
and closed that door, that entire chapter. I've pretty much said my goodbyes to the wedding industry as a whole, and I'm pretty happy with that decision.
Same here, my friend. I started in the industry when I was 17 years old. 2008, the 5D Mark II came out, and we got those DSLRs. We were some of the only people in Nashville at the time that had DSLRs, and it just took off like crazy. Ended up shooting over 300 weddings in my career, and it was a wild ride. It taught me a lot. Were there any valuable? I would imagine there's a ton of valuable lessons you learned shooting weddings.
Yeah, shot hundreds of weddings, edited tons of weddings. I got to work with editors and crew, working with clients, treating them well, learning about building trust and convincing people to say yes to spending thousands of dollars on a product. Marketing your like everything. Like
Yeah.
shooting weddings taught me everything.
Absolutely. I don't know about you, but I after I kind of transitioned off of weddings and started doing more commercial projects and working in the more kind of traditional filmmaking route, I was so shocked at how slow people worked in the film world. DPs and grip and gaff, and you have all these people involved. And I understand that, there's a process and this is how union works and how things work in Hollywood. But it was so shocking to me that it's like, can you just put the light over here? Jeez, like, let's go. Come on. Like, what's going on here? Why does it have to be a 5-person situation? Why does it take like an hour to get the lighting set up?
Yeah, I saw that in the traditional film industry, but I also saw it in weddings. I was getting frustrated at how long I took myself to shoot and edit these things. Sometimes it would take like 3 months to get a wedding out, fully edited, delivered.
That's quick, my friend. I had one
Uh,
that I didn't get finished till like a year later because we were so backlogged. It was awful.
yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. And
It was mind
moving away
numbing.
from weddings, I definitely adopted a zero project policy where I try to not have anything going on as much as possible.
Hmm.
And I always find my new project, my new direction once I have absolutely nothing.
So basically, your philosophy is what I'm currently working on is what I'm working on. When that project is, I guess in your case, an upload, that would mean that it's finished. Then you begin your next process. It's not, I mean, I know that you use notes to keep track of ideas. I mean, I'm sure you're banking ideas, right?
Mm, mm, Much less these days.
Okay.
I've just tried to streamline my process as much as possible. And yeah, focusing all my energy on one project at a time allows me to get it done quicker.
Yeah.
And I think when it's fresh in your mind, you can have more fun working on it.
Yeah.
And once it's delivered, I'll just completely move on to the next one. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I can totally relate, man. It's like once if you're working on 3 things at one time, it's so easy to lose interest in things. And then when you go back to the one that you shot a month ago, after you've been working on other things, it's just like, I'm bored of this. I want to move on. Um,
Yeah, it hurts my heart when I hear people who are just like holding on to footage and have the intention of editing something, but they almost never get to it. Whether it's like they went on a trip, shot some
mm,
footage, and it's not the biggest priority, but the footage just sits there. I would say it sits in the back of your mind as well as just something that you haven't finished, and it's a distraction at the end of the day. Even if it's sitting on a hard drive, it's in your mind.
Absolutely. I've thought about that when you have these things, it's this idea of almost mental minimalist. Is that a thing? I mean,
Yeah. Yep. Minimalism can extend to a lot of different aspects of your life, relationships, projects, just what you're worried about day to day. Yeah.
does
Financial minimalism, digital minimalism.
does the idea of, quote, minimalism in of itself cause stress because you're just constantly like overthinking how to minimalize things, or is that in of itself like the opposite of what minimalism actually is?
Yeah, I do think about things a lot. And I think that's important when you're trying to regain control over your life, because I just use minimalism as a practice, as a tool, in a sense, just to be able to have dominion over my decisions, my environment, and my state of mind. If I'm feeling a certain way, I want to make sure that it's of my own design and not caused by anyone or anything else. And if it is, that's a choke point in the automation of my happiness. I'm just trying to eliminate the distractions and make it as easy as possible to stay happy and productive.
So about 2 years ago, roughly, or maybe even less, maybe a year and a half ago or ish, you kind of, at least it seemed as though you just made this transition to, I'm just going to make these beautiful travel films and these minimalist, relaxing films. What spurred that for you? What was that moment of like clarity for you that was like, you know what, I'm done with these tech and gear related videos?
Yeah, I was definitely making videos in New York City a few years ago just because I thought when you're in New York City, it's fun to make really fun, crazy Casey Neistat style vlogs. And when you travel, make vlogs like Sam Colder, or I don't know, just all the different people that you see making stuff. So I was emulating the people who inspired me. And if you do that long enough, you start to hate everything. You feel like a fraud. So I tried to figure out how could I do travel stuff, because I really wanted to travel and experience new stuff and get away and see the world. And it was just too crazy in the cities. And I didn't know what to do, because if you go to a new city like Bangkok, like, who are you to make here's what you should do in Bangkok video? Like, you're an
Yeah.
idiot. No idea. So at least going out into nature, into the mountains where there are no people, it was kind of like a fresh start, in a sense, where I could just share my experience. And it was a genuine wonder for me to just figure out hiking. And being out there with not that much stuff was aligned with what I wanted to be doing. And yeah, just hiking for days on end was fascinating to me. And I watched other people making similar content and didn't want to distract and take away from just the visual and the peacefulness that I found when I was out there by myself. So that's where the silent hiking genre, I guess, was created for my stuff.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that is a point that I wanted to make, is that the style and the edit and the way that you create these pieces is so serene. It's, you have little to no dialogue. The only dialogue that you may have is explaining maybe why, what's happening if it's needed. But you have beautiful sound design, you have incredible music choice. Um, how do you record the sound? Is that something you're doing, with a recorder? Is it in camera? Are you doing that in post with ADR? Same with music, like you're constantly, I'm sure, looking through incredible music selections and trying to find the perfect tune. I mean, it's amazing what you've been able to do with the music and the ADR for these pieces.
Yeah, there are a bunch of different ways anyone could go out there, capture, and then edit and deliver a hiking film. The sound design was super important. I'm glad you touched upon that, because recording with a microphone, a shotgun on top, and then almost trying to record and edit the sound to be its own music is the goal. Any music that I use is because the sound design or what I was capturing out there is lacking. I use a lot of ambient, classical soundtrack, minimal music, drone in a sense. I think that's like a genre, drone.
Yeah.
Um,
Not drones like that fly in the air, but
the sound of drones. No,
yeah.
it's like droning beats and rhythms, I guess.
These
But the sound
shot,
of
shots of
wind.
Bangkok with like bzzz, just the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
I think I made one of those jokes when those quiet noise propellers came out for DJI and they made a big hoopla.
Uh
I think I just like recorded me flying in my bedroom being like, it's so quiet. And I was, "Mm."
huh. Yeah.
But the sound of the wind is almost the perfect minimal ambient music to accompany. And I like putting the footsteps in, rustling of leaves. That's what I would like try to do. But if it just isn't compelling enough, or, I'll add music bed.
Yeah, totally. Are you walking around with like a little handheld recorder getting audio as well, or is it mostly just on camera with like a stereo mic or something?
I'll usually just record the audio in line with the video. At least once or twice every hike, though, I will, if I remember, try to record at least a minute long, quiet, no distracting brushes or movement, just so that I have a clean source of wind audio just to put
Mm-hmm.
in different places if I need to do any doctoring.
Well, I noticed because you're a Twitch streamer now, I looked on your Twitch account right before our interview, and I saw a brief glimpse of your Final Cut editing, and it looked like you cut all the audio out of your video clips, and so I'm imagining you're just kind of piecing together the audio in post quite a bit.
Yeah, it's not the best way to do editing, but I've been working with Final Cut for over 10 years. So I've gotten used to my own way of working with the magnetic timeline. And I detach all of my audio from the video clips just so I can see it. And it
Mm,
just helps me think and analyze and do crossfades a little
yeah,
better.
I do
But
the
people
same.
always make fun of me.
No, I do the same, and we're actually interviewing Hillier Smith. He's Logan Paul's editor next week. We're real excited about him. He's incredible YouTube. I mean, obviously he's been at the other half of Logan Paul, and he does the same thing because once you remove the audio from the track in Final Cut, you can start to like merge those two audio sources together, do your crossfade, and you can, I don't know, you can detach the audio technically and do the same thing and then collapse it, but I don't know. I still don't do that. I'm a Final Cut boy, by the way, so we speak
Yeah,
the same language. I was on it day one. When did you get on Final Cut?
I use Final Cut Express
Oh heck
before
yeah.
Final Cut Studio. And then Final Cut Studio turned into Final Cut 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went to X.
Yeah.
So I was, yeah,
I
this
was.
was in high school. This was probably 2007.
Are we the same age? I'm 30.
I'm 29, turning
Okay.
30 in a couple weeks.
Congratulations. Welcome to the
How's it
30s.
feel? How's it feel on
Feels
on
great.
the other side of the fence, my dude?
Well, I have a wife and two kids as well, so I feel a real sense of adulthood right now because I have human beings relying on me. So the responsibility level has greatly increased. Somebody told me the other day that the 30s is like your 20s, except you have money. So I was like, that's actually pretty cool. Like, it's fairly accurate. I feel the same for the most part. Got a couple aches in my lower back from lifting my 1-year-old up and down all the time, and I had to go to physical therapy, and he told me to lift with my knees. But other than that, everything's
Dad
fine.
things. Damn.
Dad life, totally.
Yeah. I'll probably get a dog before I venture into that realm, but yeah, turning 30 is definitely a thing. And I think you're right. For me, there are thresholds when it comes to income that just gives you opens more doors for you as far as what you can spend your time and focus on. What's important is changing for me. And I've made tremendous growth in the last year, 2 years. So I'm still optimistic that a lot's going to happen in like the next 5 years. So
Absolutely.
2025, I guess, is like the next goalpost. We'll
Absolutely.
see how I'm doing then. Yeah.
When it comes to finance, what are some of your practical things that you do with your income and the way that you organize that and the way that do you invest? Do you do things like that that you could share with people that might be different than how other people might think about income?
Yeah. I've tried to minimize and just simplify the income, how I analyze it, and what I do as far as expenses. I'm on top of everything. It's very important data that gives you a lot of rich information that can help you make better decisions about where you spend your time and your money, and what you can focus on, and let other things kind of fall into automation in a sense. It's been weird as I learn, as most people are these past couple of years, how tech companies are influencing the world for better or for worse. And then to stop and realize that I'm pretty much working for Amazon and Google. Like those are my top two, or two of the three income sources that I have. At the third being just third-party sponsorship or affiliation with different companies. So out of those three buckets, two of the big four tech companies are paying my bills. So
doesn't feel too good, does it?
am I contributing to the things that I read about and learn about? I don't know. So people have tried to tell me that, Kraig, you're just out there hiking and sharing beautiful nature stuff. But then again, it's like, I'm an influencer. What is that going to look like to people in 10 years? Am I going to be like people who might have deforested or spilled oil, in a sense, as far as people comparing the negative influences of tech with global warming? So we'll see.
No, I don't know. You might be a little too hard on yourself, because I do agree with what people may tell you, and that is that you're bringing a very serene and beautiful thing to the platform that that is definitely needed. So, if you want to feel good about yourself, you can at least think about that. There's already so much junk on the internet. I feel like you're adding a lot of peace and joy to people's lives with your films. So
yeah, I wonder what the value is compared to the escape. Escape is good.
That's a good point.
Technically, watching videos, music,
it's like,
TV shows, books, I guess, is an escape from real life. And
yeah,
what value is a silent hiking film to people? I question that sometimes. But yeah, maybe I'm too hard on myself.
I think that's a big takeaway from this interview is Kraig is too hard on himself, as many of us are. Over 4 million views on your video in Iceland. Incredible film. I watched it before our interview here, and it's titled Hiking 60 Miles Alone in Hornstrandir, Iceland. Apologize if I'm crushing that title.
Yeah, it works.
In addition to that, in the last 8 months, you've had 2 other films that have cracked 1 million. Congratulations, by the way, on the one that's only 6 months ago, getting up to 1.2. You're clearly striking a chord with people. I find it fascinating that your thumbnail design reflects you. That's something that really stands out to me that I love about your, if you want to call it brand. I hate saying that, but I know that's what it is your brand. Even the color correction that you do, or the lack thereof of it, it feels as if, even in our conversation right now, like, I know you're using the default Sony profile because I can just tell, right? So I love, but that's like, that in of itself is minimalist. Like, you're not having to color grade it. You're not having to spend time with LUTs and like making this whatever quote cinematic look. Like, your composition of your thumbnails, the composition of every shot in of itself reflects your inner, I don't know, language. It's really incredible. And is that intentional? Is it extremely intentional? Or again, is it just natural for you to do?
Yeah, I am fascinated with automation in general. And what I'm constantly trying to look at is, from A to B, can I get the same product at B by doing the process from those differently and better? I would say everyone can improve how they do everything. Fact.
Yeah,
and
to put it simply,
minimalism is all about just stopping to take the time to think and analyze, is this working? Is it not? Is there a better way? How can I eliminate distractions to just cut away bottlenecks and just automate and make the process much better, if not automated? So yeah, every decision I make, I have questioned, or I hope to question, if I haven't realized it already. Like, if I can get a good product that people will see on YouTube and do half the work by not having to color correct or do any fancy titles on the thumbnails, or just all of that stuff. Why do that extra work?
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I
it gives me more time to go and make some other stuff. It just frees my mind to think and focus on the things that really matter.
But I do see almost a science in that with the design of your thumbnails in particular. One, if you're not looking along with me as I'm saying this, I encourage you to go to Kraig Adams' YouTube channel and see what I'm talking about. Often it's a wide landscape with a subject, in the foreground, whether it's in the middle or off to the right or whatever. It's just a really well thought out and clean aesthetic. And again, it just really reflects your pieces. Are these screen grabs from your films, or are you taking pictures, or what?
Yeah, most of these are screen grabs because I don't know about you. When I'm in video mode, it's hard for me to step back and switch into photo. So I
Yeah.
rarely take photos. And if I do, it's almost always iPhone. Like I never use my Sony camera. So many people have yelled at me. They're like, why are you uploading these iPhone photos? You have a Sony camera in hand. It's like, oh, I just don't do that.
Well, I can tell you why. Because you'd have to import the pictures into Lightroom. You'd have to edit them and then export.
Dude, getting rid of Photoshop was the best thing I did this year or last year. Oh man, I do all of my photo editing and manipulation on my phone. It's so much easier.
It's so great. Do you pay for
Yeah.
any type of Creative Cloud subscription?
No, and it
Heck
was
yeah.
a win in my book because I've been doing that for years. Even though it's Final Cut, I was using that Photoshop for everything. But
Yeah. There's
yeah,
there's great options out there now. Pixelmator is a good one. What's the other one that's really popular? I forget. It starts with an A. Affinity. Affinity
Affinity.
Photo as well. Really good. But even just Apple Photos now supports RAW, and so you can actually adjust RAW settings and
Yeah, I
stuff.
just
So
shoot JPEGs just because it's just quicker and easier. And if
totally.
you try to shoot it the way it should look in camera, I think it's usually better at the end of the day. But
Absolutely. This is something we both agree on. I am notorious for shooting in camera. I love shooting in camera. I hate dealing with log and all of that. Even when I'm using an Atomos recorder, I bake it in because it's like, well, why are you baking it in? That's the point, is to get more bit rate so that you can edit the log. It's like, or you could bake it in and get it right in camera and you get a ton of incredible color data in that baked in image that looks perfect and you don't have to color grade or do anything. And it's
yeah,
like,
and there's definitely a difference between being stubborn and just doing things your way. It's good. You can learn a lot from analyzing the way other people do what they do. But, you at the end of the day, you have to look at your own process and what works for you because not everyone is the same. Like I learn differently, I listen differently, I create, and my mind works differently than other people. So people need to stop telling me what to do. I'm going to do my own way.
I'm curious, just as a YouTuber myself, on your, I would imagine that the reason why these videos are popping off is your watch time and retention and whatnot is through the roof. Are you seeing those analytics and those data points on these films, and that people are just really just staying there, maybe even playing these films in the background just to relax themselves? What are you seeing with your films that people are using them for?
Yeah. So if you think about the idea of a hike that takes 5 days to do, literally hiking, that would be the play, the theater version. If I somehow had a single camera showing the entire hike, people would probably not want to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
So any editing that you do along that spectrum is fair game. You could shoot it and export and distribute anywhere along. You could do 1 minute, you could do 10 minute, you could do a 3 hour of the 5 day. I was surprised at my expectation of what people would sit and tolerate,
Yeah.
length wise and pace wise. I thought I'm a weirdo. I like slow, silent movies like No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood, or like my top 10. And the reception that I got from Hornstrandir, especially when most of that is like wind sound, me walking, B-roll of just green hills and stuff, was surprising. So then that gave me more confidence to keep doing long form, slower pace. And then, not doing any music was a test that I did. Some people liked it. I think more people just, it wasn't their vibe. Obviously, it's a smaller section of people who might enjoy that content. But yeah, I'm kind of still chill with doing the relaxing, slow paced, long form. It would be hard for me to do what's up YouTube, TikTok stuff. So Yeah.
Well, that's the thing that's great, and the thing that I'm learning about YouTube is that you just got to get straight to the point and stop like having these dumb intros and these animated graphics. And I think that might be a little bit of your secret sauce that I don't know if you're aware of it, but like that Iceland video, you hit play, and within 20 seconds you're in Iceland. You see the process of you getting on a plane and traveling, and then within 50 seconds you're there. No, not even. Within 45 seconds you're in this gorgeous field. So
But even then, I questioned that. Like,
but you've hooked them in. At that point,
why couldn't I just start at that green shot?
Oh,
Because
okay,
that green
yeah.
shot, when the first mile title comes off, even doing mile title, like this was so early. This is one of the first hikes that I did and shot in this format. So I even questioned what would this video have looked like. I wish I could have done an A/B test where I just started
Yeah.
right at that day one green shot.
I don't know. I think that is a good storytelling element, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, so like what would be one that I could look at that you've learned from then that you're even cutting that out is like the Alaska one that's
Yeah.
got a million. I mean,
Yeah,
that starts
so-
out with a drone shot within 20 seconds. You're still not walking. It's just drone shots until 50 seconds or so.
So let me tell you some of the tests.
Yeah,
that
I
I've
mean,
done.
it's just interesting. I've learned like Mr. Beast is somebody that I think everybody can learn from, and even though his content is for children and it's totally like, I feel like Kraig Adams and Mr. Beast are complete polar opposite creators on YouTube, but there's something to learn in that he just gets straight to the point and delivers the title and thumbnail within 15 seconds. So the title is last to remove hand wins $1 million, right? You click the video. Within 6 seconds, he sets up the premise. He shows the money. He shows the characters, and we begin. And within maybe even 30 seconds, somebody's already eliminated. And then once he like captures that initial audience that are like, oh shoot, he's serious. He actually is giving this away. Then you can start to let the storytelling happen. Then you can start to slow down the pace a bit and let the video breathe. And that's what I'm seeing here with your Alaska one, that I think that may be your secret sauce, is that you have the travel to Iceland within 15 seconds. And then at that 40-second point, you have, the green field. So I think it actually worked obviously pretty well for you. I mean, it's your top video by 6 times. So
Yeah. I think it makes sense to have the video summed up within 10 seconds as the intro. Like you're saying, the characters, the stakes, the outcome in a sense, or just starting the process. Yeah.
And the title cards are good too, because you have a destination. You have this mile mark. So it hooks people in to want to see that through. It's just a natural thing that humans want, is to see that story progress.
Yeah. I'm always struggling with the balance between trying to get people to watch as much as possible versus me just shooting what I think I want to
Yeah.
shoot and edit it the way. I usually make things so that it's what I want to see. And I would get bored at this part, and I get that feeling, especially when I do my last pass after I think I'm done editing. I always do just one more watch on full screen, and you can just feel it like, oh, I'm a little bored right here. So cut that. Boom.
That
but-
takes a lot of time to hone that and to be self-aware enough to cut something that may have even took, some serious time to create.
Yeah. I've learned to be patient with that though, because there are some older videos that are baked into my channel, exported and uploaded, where there is a mistake or there's just a moment that I hate and I just let it slip. And now every time I watch that video, I hate that moment. I hate that. I wish I spent just 1 extra minute before exporting, because now it's forever. It's
Yeah.
right there in my face. I hate it.
If it's a hard cut, I guess you could trim it with the YouTube editor. Have you ever done that?
Does it smush it?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you can cut things out if it's just a hard cut.
I did not know that.
You're welcome. Yeah, you go into the
So-
YouTube studio, you go to the editor tab, and you can trim. You can add blurs to things. You can add music. You can trim
I
things
know the
out.
blur, but I didn't know you could actually affect the duration of the video.
Yeah, yeah,
Technically, videos could always get smaller, can never get larger.
exactly. Well, I think they always have the original file on file. So if you were to revert, it can go back. For some dang reason, they won't do a password like Vimeo. That's the one thing I wish they would do, is just like an unlisted or like a private video with a password attached, so I could send that out to clients or something.
So if it's private, you can't add someone to a list with an email.
Yeah,
I've never tried that.
I think you can, but I don't know. That's too much work. I just want to send them a link and say, cat is the password. But
Yeah,
Frame.io.
I've always felt the unlisted works for that though, because
It
they're
does.
probably not going to share the link, but you want password.
Yeah. Maybe I could embed it to a website with a password or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So on your links, your social links on your YouTube channel, the only link that's there right now is Twitch. What's going on with Twitch? I just looked
at the top there. Yeah, the only one that's not hidden.
Yeah,
I guess on the about page there's a bunch more, but
okay. What's going on with Twitch? Are you experimenting with that, playing with Twitch? I saw you did a podcast interview. You've been gaming as well. I didn't know minimalists can game.
Yeah, half my life is spent in front of a screen, whether it's playing games, talking with people, getting work done, consuming, watching stuff myself. So it's really fun to be able to share that and interact with my audience in such a rich way. It's really cool to have that one-on-one instant connection. And I was always a fan of podcasts, and eventually started doing more solo updates just to update people on my thoughts, what's happening currently, analyzing what I previously uploaded or worked on. And I think Twitch is just the best way to do that for me right now. So right now I'm just pushing everything to Twitch because my other social media channels are just buzzing and working as they usually do. Definitely over the threshold of having to put a lot of work into those to make them work. They're like my children, and my YouTube channel especially has gone off to college. So I got an empty nest. So I just adopted Twitch into my family.
Well, I noticed you replied to Sarah Dietschy the other day on Twitter, and I followed you and sent you a message to be on this podcast. And I was like, and I looked at when your Twitter was created. It was created like a month ago or something. Like, what's the deal? I thought you were on Twitter, and then did you delete it?
Yeah, that was about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Yeah. And I had at Kraig Adams, and now I'm trying to get that back.
Oh, that's annoying. I went through that as well.
Yeah, I deleted my Instagram earlier this year in March as well, and now that's back. So,
just a cleanse.
It's been a struggle for me to figure out how I want to distribute what I create and how. I've probably got rid of things too much in a sense. So now I'm just bouncing back a little bit, and the balance is like slowing down to where I should be. And that probably involves having Twitter.
But
I like Twitter.
I would imagine, me too. It's the best way to communicate to other creators, to your followers. Just, I love text. It's just simple. It's clean. I don't have to worry about a picture. Just share a thought, share an opinion, and let it ride. But I would imagine that part of, again, your lifestyle is also digital minimalism. That was one of your popular videos that I saw back in the day, and I think you've done kind of updates on that along the way. Can you share a little bit about digital minimalism? Because I think that's something a lot of us are struggling with as we become more addicted to our devices.
Yeah, I would say it's my theory of minimalism and constantly analyzing the efficiency of every process that you have, whether it's work or play, applied to your online accounts. So I guess trying to have the fewest amount organized so that you don't have like missing passwords and whatnot, using the least amount of social media and trying to get the maximum amount of value out of the things that you give your time and attention to. And then also just the tools that you use as far as video editing, photo, music, just all the apps in your digital space. Try to get the most value out of the least amount that you need to have a good, happy, productive life.
Absolutely. Sometimes that means deleting the app, maybe not deleting the account, but just getting it off of your phone. What are some of the tactics for your phone that you do? Are there any like rules for you with your phone?
Yeah, I've turned off all the notifications and I've muted everyone on Instagram so that I don't consume without intention. So if I want to see an update on someone or what they've been up to, I can go to it, and it's not just popping up and then I go do it because it popped up. I have to make the decision to go do that. I try to do that with everything, social media wise, as much as I can make the decision instead of having them make it for me. But then, as we learned, there are lots of sneaky ways to do that.
They're very sneaky indeed.
Yes, yes.
Nathan Luke on Twitter actually asked a question. I posted a quick AMA just minutes before our interview, and I think it's a good question. He just asked, is there one piece of travel that you just couldn't live without? For example, a warm jumper, those fluffy socks, or a teddy called Snuggles. This guy sounds like he's probably from the UK. Yep, he is.
One piece of travel gear that I can't live without?
Yeah, what's one thing you own, you travel with,
Like a
that you
thing.
couldn't live without?
Oh, okay.
A warm
I
jumper?
use everything I have. Like if I didn't use it, I wouldn't have it. So it's kind of a silly question to me.
So the question is, what are the items you have then?
Yeah, I used to have a gear page that I would update with a grid image, an image grid of all the items that I have with links. But yeah, as you can see, there's not much in my room right now.
Well,
I
that's
moved into this apartment in the Lower East Side with just a backpack and a duffel, and I
Nice.
moved in instantly. So I don't have that many things. All the tools have their own reason.
Well, tell me about that then. Your duffel. What are those essential things? I would assume it's a couple pairs of, like, one or two pairs of shirts, pants, underwear, toothbrush.
The plan starting in January was to live out of a backpack and travel nonstop, making YouTube videos, hiking. And I started it out of the gate with a failed attempt at summiting Kilimanjaro.
Nice.
Almost died. And
Oh
then
my
I
gosh.
went to the Himalayas, Nepal, and then I went to Hong Kong, Chile. So I was off to a great start. And then something happened, I don't know, pandemic, something like that.
Couldn't travel
So
anymore.
I had to change up my plan. And I got the duffel because I could afford to have a duffel to have some extra clothes. And then the hiking gear was also in addition to the camera gear that I had before. So duffel and backpack was pretty good. I could make it work. But then not able to travel as much. There was a big hit with sponsors. So it was just like different come around April. And then I kind of escaped back to New York City, got this apartment, and the winter's coming. So I have recently since then gotten more stuff than just a backpack and a duffel. I don't think I could fit my Twitch streaming desk here in any kind of backpack.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy here. I'm just going to try to survive the winter and
Yeah.
create through the screen and maybe occasionally take hiking trips, but we'll see.
Stored up some acorns for the
Yeah,
winter.
Soylent, yeah.
So let's see. What else?
This is like what, episode 90 or something?
Yeah, I think so. 91, actually, I believe. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
How
know.
long is that? Has that been years of recording, or do you actually treat this like an actual job and do it with a schedule that's pretty current and quick?
Yeah, I work with Polar Pro. This is actually sponsored and paid for by Polar Pro. So this is a job. It's every week. I post one every week. So if there's 90, you can multiply or divide that by number of weeks in the year. So it started about 2 years ago. Yeah, it's great, and I like having that that hard deadline of every single Tuesday we post a podcast, and we haven't missed a week yet. I think there were 2 episodes where I did like a highlight during the holidays because I didn't have any guests lined up, but thanks to you and some other guests that we've had in these last 2 weeks, I've stockpiled for December and January so I can take some time off with my family. So I appreciate.
Acorns.
Yeah, acorns, exactly.
I recognize a lot of the names in the list, so that's pretty cool. I was on probably episode 70 of my own podcast, which I deleted when I deleted my Instagram earlier this year. And I went through the difficult work of actually scouring it from the internet because a lot of websites just re-uploaded and recasted those files. Because I was very curious to know what is the value of an episode that was recorded, like an old episode. How often do people go back and listen to like your fifth episode, or your seventh versus your 80th?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when a podcast like this, where we are talking about a lot of kind of topical things that are relevant now, where you are now with your channel and things like that, I think probably the numbers are low. But that's where I've already had some return guests. You mentioned you listened to Sidney DeOngson's episode. He was one of the early interviews I did. So I like the fact that now I'm able to circle back, and I've had a handful of people on for a second time. And it's, now that the show's 2.5 years old, I can talk to people I talked to 2 years ago and be like, hey, a lot's changed. Let's talk about it,
Yeah. So I would assume with audio podcasts, almost all of your audience and viewership comes from opt-in subscription. So people clicking a button because they want to be delivered the episodes and consume it. Whereas YouTube is such a different beast. The algorithm is insane. Looking at my channel analytics, 80% of my views are recommended by the YouTube algorithm.
That's good.
So that's why I tend to push content to YouTube, because clips do well, because people who didn't intend on finding it, or people who didn't go out and search for it, will find it if it's good.
That's a really good point. Polar Pro should pay me more to do that.
Yeah, double, triple this man's salary. We'll go on YouTube.
I'm happy to do that. It's just not part of my contract. So
yeah.
I already have a full-time job with Indie Mogul, and I'm trying to make that the biggest filmmaking channel on the platform. So that's my goal there.
That's a good goal. Yeah. My goal right now is just to focus on Twitch, because like I said, it's a new thing. It's kind of exciting to start when no one cares. And I can pull levers and try to shift attention from places that already get attention to help out this new endeavor. But yeah, it's exciting to have to try make it work.
Oh, you have it so rough, Kraig. It's just so easy for you. No, I understand. I'm actually in the same boat. I think I'm actually shocked how similar we are. I'm not a minimalist at all, but I feel like we have a similar thought process, and we're both more entrepreneurial people. So I'm constantly thinking of other things. I'm actually in the process of developing a new channel that's not even related to filmmaking whatsoever. So that's been something that I've been very excited about, and even though it would make sense that when I got hired to work for Indie Mogul, channel that's been around for 12 years, over 1 million subscribers, I've got editors, shooters, a production studio, and Ted is basically like, hey, Dave, do whatever you want. People would say, oh, that's like a dream job. And it totally is. I'm extremely thankful. But when I came here, it felt so strange that I was so unsatisfied with myself and with my job, because I lost control. I lost a lot of control, because even though, I've been given a lot of opportunity here, there's a boss. There's people that are relying on me to deliver something that we're supposed to do 4-6 videos a month. And so I have to deliver that, and so my mind just kind of started going crazy, and I started just developing this new concept. And so now I have an outlet that I'm able to do something else. It doesn't make any sense that I don't have the time to do it, but I have to do it, because as a creative, I felt kind of like I needed an outlet to create with no restrictions, with nobody telling me how it needs to be done. And I see when you're dealing with sponsorships, when you're dealing with the Panasonic video, you want to use your Sony camera, right? But it's a sponsorship. It makes sense, for them. It's going to help them, that's the kind of struggle that I guess artists deal with. I don't know.
Yeah, because the best kind of channel is one where no one is helping me to make the decisions at all. And
Hmm.
I'm only delegating out those decisions because I can make money by doing that, or, it's asking for advice on what I should make from the community,
Hmm.
or letting the feedback from when I do upload affect what I make in the future. So the feedback and the money are probably the two things that limit my ability to express myself on YouTube.
Hmm.
And it's a balance of switching, changing that slider to allow myself to make more, make less, letting the people who are giving me feedback affect what I do or not. I could just never look at another comment. I could never respond to another email or message from people, not even look at the views per se, or let it affect me if I do see it, and just create what I want to create. And then I could also say no to every single sponsorship that comes my way, and not do it for the money and just make it because I want to make it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a balance. That perfect YouTube channel or that perfect form of expression is a little too hard to attain these days. Because
It's
that thing
true.
called money, I don't know. You have to make an income, right?
In my conversation with Maddie, I was talking about this balance of art and and YouTube, and he kind of cut me off in that rant I was doing, and he said YouTube isn't an art, it's a science. And he's like, I don't see what I do as art. I see it as science, and everything that I'm doing is based around an algorithm and based on how to, grow and how to do this and that ABC.
That's so silly. No, Matt. I will fight you on that. Let's fight. Let's go full boxing. Let's just not use words and just go straight Logan Paul, right?
I think what he's trying to say, though, too, is that when you look at the data and the analytics and stuff, and when you look at, again, Mr. Beast, he's just trying to optimize every single second of his videos to, it's like this game that we're playing on YouTube to trigger all those boxes.
So growth is the goal then. I wouldn't say growth is my goal.
Yeah,
So just different measures of success, I guess.
absolutely. And that's the beauty of the internet, right? You got everybody on it.
Lots of different ways to do it.
A lot of different voices. So Twitch is kind of your baby right now. It's your exciting new venture.
Yeah, it would be really fun just to go live and chat with the community and be able to. I've never seen a platform make it so easy to know who your number one fans are,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to rank the level of support you get from people over time. Like someone who subs to you for 9 months, it's just right there. There's no way to fake that from other
Mm-hmm.
people. So
What are you I don't use Twitch. What are you talking about?
So you can follow people. Well, you can just watch Twitch content as a viewer.
Mm-hmm.
The next level up from that is to follow. So that means you get updates when they go live, and it puts you into a smaller bucket as a viewer. And then the level up from that, I guess, would be like a tier one sub, which costs $5 a month, I think. And that just gives you a membership for 1 month, 30 days or whatever. And that puts you into a smaller bucket. So I can see who's in these buckets and where they've moved throughout their entire relationship with watching my content. And there's really easy ways for me to get alerts to see when people make these decisions and pledge their support. And then there's commenting and rating. So it just makes it really easy to know who cares how much and how long they've cared.
It's built into the platform, and that's part of the way the platform works. It's not this added thing like the join button on YouTube where it's like I don't I'm sorry to say, but I didn't join anybody's channel. I follow a lot of great people that I know are doing the join, the membership on YouTube, but it's just not part of the language of YouTube. It's just kind of there. Have you had any success with that? I noticed that you have that enabled on your account.
Yeah, it's been a great experiment. I've tried it in a different couple of ways, but I realized the best is just to almost give nearly zero expectations of them joining, and then just see how many people legitimately just want to support you, even though they barely get anything in return. Because then you can always go up from there
Mm-hmm.
and make that relationship, those rewards for those people a bit more complicated. So I think $10 a month is my membership program. and that's grown, every month. I'm over like 250 people with that program.
It's amazing.
And yeah, I think the program is pretty similar in theory to Twitch's program, but Twitch just gives so much more power to reward those people all across the spectrum rather than, yes, they subscribe, no, yes, they're a member, no. So I'm excited to just do more Twitch because I think it's almost more fun than YouTube for me. And it's going to be a strange focus once I can start to hike again. But
yeah, how are you going to...
this winter, I'm just going to be on Twitch.
I mean, that would be very cool if you were able to have some sort of solid connection and do a hike Twitch. I mean, that'd be sick.
Oh, I wouldn't do a hike Twitch. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing a lot of Twitch this winter just because it's more fun to me. Yeah. And there's definitely a threshold when it comes to Twitch where you don't feel self-conscious about video game, like being a gamer, playing in front of people, because it's traditionally something that you do in private and you don't share that you're playing, because some people might be embarrassed about how much they play or what they play or how bad they play it. So it's a muscle that I'm going to have to practice, just being okay with doing that, because the people who watch will watch, and the people who don't, I don't have to worry about those people. So
I love it.
There's a lot to it. I'm really excited. I'm like 3 weeks into it and it's here to stay. I'm so excited because it's a challenge. Like, it's causing me to think, like, should I bring back the podcast? Should I start interviewing people live on Twitch? And then just challenging them to games once we get that established. And just like, how can I just harness all of these already successful skills and email lists that I've created just to make this thing work?
Do you have a habit of kind of finding things like this? I just sense the passion and the excitement you have about this. Is this what happened for you with the wedding film course? Is this what happened for you with your gear review channel? Is this what happened when you transitioned to doing travel and had success? Do you kind of just have these moments of passion and excitement, and then after 6 months, a year, you move on to something else? Is that a repetitive? I'm saying that because I do that myself. So yeah, I would say that's definitely a pattern that I do time and time again. It's a good thing, and I think it's important to be self-aware of it and to realize, that it is a pattern. But it's something.
If a lot of my friends that make fun of me took bets on whether I'll have a Twitch channel in like 3 months, a couple of them would probably put a couple, $100 on the fact that I might get rid of it, because I've done that in the past. Okay. And all I can say is that this time's different. Yeah. I've said that before. So how much do people trust my word? And honestly, it just raises the stakes and the potential rewards for anyone willing to invest on watching my channel and starting to become the people who I recognize and see as day oneers. Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great way to end our conversation. There's plenty more to talk about, and we'll have to have you on maybe a year from now as a return guest and see how Twitch is going, see how the films are going. Hopefully this darn pandemic will be over by then and we can start traveling again. Thank you, Kraig, so much for being on. It was a real pleasure. I love chatting, and I'm getting excited, and you're making me more passionate about this, not only just to prove you wrong and anyone listening that I still have the Twitch going. So it's all good things, brother. Thank you for having me. Awesome.